Documentaries that led to massive lawsuits. Like, imagine you're, a celebrity, actor, whatever, and you think that you are this, like, clean, good person, that you just make your work, your art, and you just give it to the world, and you think people like you, and you wake up, and then you see that somebody's released this bombshell documentary alleging you of being some kind of deviant. You lose a bunch of work, your income gets slashed, your family, your partner divorces you, all based on completely unfounded claims in a documentary. It's got to be one of the worst things that can happen to a person. I'd feel so powerless if it were me. So this is going to be quite an interesting list because, imagining how that would feel, horrible.
I'm not guilty of these allegations, but if I am guilty of anything, it is of giving all that I have.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're examining infamous times when subjects of or those connected to a documentary film or TV series issued a lawsuit against the creators or those related to the production.
SeaWorld executives claim the film was having no impact, even though investors claim they have now uncovered evidence showing SeaWorld knew Blackfish was keeping visitors away.
Ooh.
Backfiring lawsuit. The Carter. The 2009 documentary The Carter was about the life of Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., better known as Lil Wayne, in the lead-up to releasing his 2008 album, The Carter 3. Reportedly, Wayne was delighted with the final cut.
For me, for Lil Wayne, it began in New Orleans.
However, upon its second screening at the 25th Sundance Film Festival, the rapper initiated a $50 million lawsuit against its release.
What?
Wayne claimed The Carter contained footage that he was promised would be removed.
That'll be better for us as listeners.
However, the judge threw the suit out. Regardless, The Carter had to resort to coming out on iTunes and DVD. In 2012, after further lawsuits between Wayne and the film's producer, Quincy Jones III, the rapper went viral with his deposition. He lost the case and had to pay Jones nearly $2.2 million.
Oof.
Okay, I see how I'm retired. Yeah, I do. But I don't see how.
Irreparably
I do feel like if they told him that they would remove the footage, they should have removed it, don't you think? I feel like if you said you're going to do something, follow through.
harmed reputation. Quiet on set. The dark side of kids' TV. After years of rumors, in 2024, the documentary series Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids' TV shone a spotlight on the murky world of Nickelodeon. One of the production's main subjects was the explosive allegations.
Let's be honest, we try not to judge a book by its cover, and you shouldn't, but there's just something about this guy that, do you know what I mean? There's just something about this guy that's like, you're not sure.
Against former children's TV creator Dan Schneider, who was accused of fostering a toxic work environment and misconduct against children.
By the late 2000s, Dan had more control than pretty much any showrunner at Nickelodeon.
In the aftermath, Schneider issued a lawsuit against the show's producers, claiming it irreparably harmed his reputation.
Schneider now alleges the portrayal of him is a, quote, hit job.
While he apologized for his on-set behavior, the TV writer denied the allegations he knew of or participated in any abuse of the underage stars, which he believed the series implied. In November 2024, the lawsuit was given the go-ahead by a judge to proceed.
I could be cocky and definitely overambitious, and sometimes just straight up rude and obnoxious, and I am so sorry that I ever was.
Outtake outrage. Crude.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The more that we learn about, would you let your kids become actors, like child actors? If I used to think, it would be a great way to get them into the industry, but the more you hear about what goes on in Hollywood, I don't know anymore. I don't know.
Produced and directed by Joe Berlinger, 2009's Crude detailed the lawsuit issued by Ecuadorians residing in the Amazon rainforest against the oil and gas company, the Chevron Corporation.
The total area in which Texaco polluted is about the size of the state of Rhode Island. We are suing for environmental cleanup.
The residents believe the company had polluted their land after Judge Lewis Kaplan allowed Chevron access to the outtakes following a lawsuit against the creators. It found footage of lawyer Stephen Donziger discussing unsavory tactics to beat the company in court. After the oil firm lost the original lawsuit and had to pay nearly $19 billion, in 2014,
$19 billion.
Kaplan ruled against the previous judgment by citing fraud from the Ecuadorian's U.S. lawyers, as seen in the outtakes. Kaplan also controversially ruled that Danziger had committed fraud. The lawyer was later disbarred.
Wow.
The reason I'm locked up is because we were successful.
The double suit. Tabloid. In what is sometimes known as the Manacled Mormon case, in 1977, Joyce McKinney was accused by Mormon missionary Kirk Anderson of abducting and abusing him in England over several days.
Jeez.
Weirdly, she became a sort of celebrity for a time.
I would never do anything to hurt Kirk Anderson or slander him.
In 2010, Tabloid was released, which examined the case and the newspaper's fascination with McKinney.
They had painted a totally different picture of me. If I was well-educated, they made me stupid.
In 2011, she issued a lawsuit against the director, Errol Morris, stating she was misled about the film's intention and that he defamed her. Morris won the case. However, McKinney wasn't done, and she issued another suit in 2016. Along with similar claims, she also accused Morris of breaking into her home and stealing, as well as threatening to harm her service dog. This case was thrown out. Serious accusation.
I mean, it sounds like she just didn't have any evidence at all. Makes me kind of think maybe she did abduct that guy. Like, you know, both lawsuits were thrown out. Obviously, we don't have any evidence that she did that, but I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Feels fishy.
The case of JonBenét Ramsey. In 1996, child pageant star JonBenét Ramsey was murdered in her home in Boulder, Colorado. While the case has gripped the U.S. and led to many theories, no one has been sentenced for the crime. The family has denied being involved for decades. In 2016, CBS released the docu-series The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, which examined the case and speculated who could have been responsible.
It's very likely they know who did it. They may still be trying to figure out why did this happen.
JonBenét's brother, Burke Ramsey, soon issued lawsuits against CVS, forensic pathologist Dr. Werner Spitz, and others for defamation, as he was accused of the crime.
The lawsuit alleges the experts and the program itself knew that Burke Ramsey had been excluded as a suspect by the authorities.
Altogether, he was requesting $250 million in compensatory damages and no less than $500 million in punitive damages. In 2019, the case was settled out of court.
Wow.
JonBenét Ramsey has reached a settlement with CBS.
Investors
I mean, absolutely. To accuse him of doing that to his sister is crazy, especially after they knew that, you know, he'd already been excluded. Like the police had already, you know, moved him off their suspect list. They still went out there and like ruined his life, you know. Yeah, he deserved that money. The money doesn't even make it better, really. It just, you know, helps a little bit.
Misled. Blackfish. In 2013, the landscape of SeaWorld was changed forever upon the release of Blackfish, focusing on the captivity of Tilikum, an orca which had taken 3 human lives, and how orcas are treated by the company. Many people were disgusted at the allegations.
I think that in 50 years, we'll look back and go, my God, what a barbaric time.
In 2014, investors issued a lawsuit against SeaWorld for misleading them. They alleged that the company had lied about the negative impact the documentary had had on its revenue, as people stopped visiting the parks and had artificially inflated share prices.
The year that movie came out, SeaWorld's Orlando's attendance dropped 8%.
In 2020, a judge agreed to a $65 million settlement. This was on top of the $5 million 2018 judgment against SeaWorld and its former CEO, James Atchison, on similar federal charges.
Upon news of this settlement this morning, SeaWorld shares spiked to a 52-week high.
Really?
The non-disparagement.
I mean, do you think animals as big as like orcas should be like in any kind of cage or, you know, like... That's what I call it. It's weird. Like, on the one hand, I love going to zoos and stuff like that and seeing animals because, you know, going out to their natural habitat's like almost impossible. But at the same time, is it cruel to put an animal like an orca or a silverback, you know, in effectively what is kind of a big cage, like these, you know, enclosures that they're usually in? They're big, but they're kind of still cages, aren't they? What do you guys think about that? I feel like maybe we should just leave them in their habitats, but then I guess we'd never get to see them. I don't know. What do you think on that?
Clause. Leaving Neverland. After Michael Jackson was acquitted of child charges in 2005, speculation about the nature of his relationships with children tainted his reputation.
He was already larger than life. And then he likes you.
I don't think he did it personally. I don't believe Michael did it.
In 2019, the creators of Leaving Neverland wanted to examine the experience of two alleged victims. However, shortly after the film premiered at Sundance, Jackson's estate issued a lawsuit against HBO for ignoring a non-disparagement clause. The group claimed that when the broadcaster signed a deal to show one of Jackson's concerts in 1992, there was a clause stating HBO couldn't make disparaging remarks about the singer or those tied to him.
The lawsuit calls the documentary a one-sided marathon of unvetted propaganda to shamelessly exploit an innocent man.
And an innocent man who's passed away and can't defend themselves. It's kind of shameless, in my opinion. Like, they didn't even have any evidence, like.
As such, the estate demanded over $100 million. In 2020, after appealing, HBO was ordered to go to arbitration with Jackson's estate, but both sides agreed to dismiss in 2024. Battling the broadcaster.
Yeah, I think Michael was like, you know, he didn't have a childhood because he was in the Jackson 5 from such a young age, you know, and I think he just enjoyed, you know, like spending time like innocently with kids. That's my belief. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've researched this. I've not found any evidence of him doing any kind of unwanted, you know, degenerate behavior. That's just me, though. If you found anything, let me know. But yeah, I think he's innocent.
The Uncounted Enemy, A Vietnam Deception. In 1982, the docuseries CBS Reports released the episode The Uncounted Enemy, A Vietnam Deception. It detailed allegations that General William Westmoreland had manipulated intelligence reports that there were fewer communists in South Vietnam in 1967, which the U.S. was at war with at the time.
Westmoreland was there commanding the 25,000 American advisors in 1964, urging the president to commit combat troops in 1965.
This figure editing would then give the impression to the states that the country's invasion was successful when it actually wasn't.
Will prevail in Vietnam over the communist aggressor.
As a result, Westmoreland issued a $120 million lawsuit for defamation against CBS and the episode's producers. In 1985, the trial got underway. However, believing the jury was seemingly siding with CBS, Westmoreland settled the case out of court before a verdict was reached.
I made the decision. It was my responsibility. I don't regret making it.
Jumping to conclusions.
Honestly, no more wars. No more wars, man. Honestly, I think the people that decide to start wars, they need to be on the front lines. That's what I think. I think if you want to send people to go and, you know, fight in a war, potentially lose their lives, you lead from the front, because they just are so costly, you know, both in life and finances. It's just, you know, Vietnam, most people concede that it was a bad decision. Like, and all those men who died, they can't be, that's it, they're gone, you know? Or am I being too sort of like naive? I don't know I don't think I am personally.
Diddy, the making of a bad boy. In 2023, several women came forward with misconduct allegations about Sean Combs, also known as the musician and record producer Diddy. He was arrested and at the time of writing is awaiting his trial. In 2025, NBC, through its Peacock streaming service, released the documentary film Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, which explored several allegations, including those that he was responsible for the deaths of various people, such as Kim Porter.
Kim dying is one of those stop you in your tracks moments.
In response, Combs filed a lawsuit against the broadcaster.
The documentary maliciously accuses Mr. Combs of murdering the love of his life and mother to his children, Kimberly Porter.
He claimed the documentary maliciously and baselessly jumps to the conclusion about Diddy's alleged criminal exploits. As such, he believed the film caused economic harm to him, resulting in him demanding $100 million in damages.
The documentary advances the false narrative that it cannot be a coincidence that Ms. Porter and others in Mr. Combs' orbit have died.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to
That was kind of foreshadowing, because I mean, he's definitely, as we've seen now, Diddy's definitely guilty of a lot of things. Like, who's to say he might have, you know, did what they accused him of, you know.
Channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Defamation claims, Chris Brown, A History of Violence. Allegations of abuse made against high-profile figures are unfortunately destined to cause a media frenzy, and Chris Brown's legal situation is no different. Over the years, there have been various claims of Brown's violent behavior to varying degrees of public knowledge.
He said,
An investigative 2024 documentary outlined these cases, to the obvious detriment to Brown's image.
Obviously, somebody's looking to get a check.
In response, Brown filed a defamation suit against Warner Brothers Discovery for $500 million. His team claims that the accounts at the heart of the documentary are false, despite the numerous allegations to the contrary.
their actions undermine not only Mr. Brown's decade-long efforts to rebuild his life, but also the credibility of true survivors of violence.
Are there any other cases of people suing
Chris Brown, I mean, he obviously did what he did to Rihanna. Like, that's without shadow of a doubt. You know, based on that, could you argue that he's probably done similar things to other people? You can. I'm not saying he did, obviously. I don't have any proof of that, but just sort of like following like the logic of it. But yeah, like a lot of these people who make these documentaries, I don't think they really think ahead about what could potentially happen, because unless they've got real ironclad evidence of the thing they're accusing the celebrity of, they're going to get sued. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.